forward.
Some of them RSVP now.
I'll call the meeting to order, and we will have our Weston order.
Contingent.
Yeah, it is a contingent today, I see that. Speak first. So who's up?
I invited Chip and Matt here in regards to our nitrification plan. We have you guys recently signed, I think it was a month or two ago, or Pat signed a comprehensive monitoring plan for the water. And there's a DEP rule with nitrification. Tell me if I'm wrong with my explanation, as chlorine disseminates in the system, as it breaks down, it creates some chemical reactions that create a biofilm, if you will, that enhances the chance for a positive coliform. And if you remember, a few years back, we were talking about the possibility of chlorination stations and things. It hasn't got to that point, but we do have to put some water on the ground to keep our nitrification in check in certain areas in the borough where the water is older and not as fresh. And I'll let Chip and Matt explain the details of that. We are looking generally pretty good with this scenario.
As Jim said, these are the new regulations we've been talking to you guys for years now. So this is the nitrification control plan. What we did is something very unique. The borough agreed with the other two boroughs to ask DEP to do some outreach. For reports you have, is actually a report from DEP talking about the results of a year's worth of sampling that we did in your distribution system. So what you'll notice is we have a sample location on Farm Road, one at Country Meadows, and one on Sturbridge Court. If you look at right underneath where it shows you the three locations, it says, what is nitrification? Nitrification is a drinking water that can be very confusing. As Jim did a good job of trying to unconfuse it, it is very confusing. It's kind of like this. If you go get a blood test before you realize you get sick, the doctor wants to know, is there something wrong with your blood to see if you're going to get sick or not get sick? That's exactly what the nitrification control plan does. We look at the water throughout your system and understand, is it good, is it bad, and it's giving us a lot of data to now go back and look at. The good news is, and once again, I'm not going to read this report. You guys can do this at your leisure. If you look at the next bullet point underneath there, it says some of the ways that nitrification might magnify themselves. It talks about taste and odor. It really talks about water quality, and that's the whole thing about this nitrification control plan. We're now doing a lot more in trying to understand what the water is like once it leaves the plant and gets in the far reaches of our distribution system. So the good news is there's some recommendations here, and where it says important note, that's all DEP's disclaimer about this is our report to you. You don't have to do it, but we'd like you to consider doing it. And the most important thing is this is on your desk now to look at. Have Jim McCarthy and Jim Babb look at this, look at some of the recommendations, and then what you'll see when you get to page. Starts at the bottom of page 2 and goes over to page 3. There's a whole lot. There's probably 20 different bullet points or recommendations that we'd like you guys to look at with your staff and your engineer to see whether any of them make sense. The most important thing is Jim put some flushing hydrants in. As Jim says, he's putting water on the ground to move the stale water out that's not properly chlorinated. And you've made a great stride in trying to do that. The one thing I'm going to point out in the middle of that page is that we talk about very important to coordinate some flushing schedules. So right now, Wyomissing does their own flushing, Shillington does their own flushing, West Reading does their flushing. We think there's value to coordinate the flushing between the boroughs. Because a lot of times we think what's happening is we're moving bad water into bad areas of your borough, for example. So if we start at one end and work through the other end and coordinate that with Shillington, West Reading, and Wyomissing, we did a good job of doing that. And that was something that you signed in the agreement that we talked about how to work together on that. Once again, got to come from you guys and with your approval. The one thing I learned, and as Jim said, this is confusing, as I said, is that a lot of times you're replacing water mains because they get old or they're leaking a lot. What this is going to do for us is you might want to consider replacing the water main because the water quality is bad. So we're going to be able to get the water quality and say, you know what, even the line's not leaking, it could be tuberculated, it could be something wrong with that where it's just sucking up the chlorine, and then you have chances of positive POC-D samples. So we think this is gonna give us the ability to really dial in and understand, and maybe make some recommendations on, yeah, you're thinking about doing water mains, here's another one you might wanna put on your list, because it's always, the water quality is so bad there. And it just is over the years of it could be the design of the pipe, the age of the pipe, the construction of the material, but that's kind of important. What Matt's gonna do, and I want you to just go to page 4, and this is the most important thing, this is the executive summary. The very bottom in bolded out there, the bottom line is it says that we've taken samples and you're well below the action levels for this plan at all 3 sites. And the most important thing is there's a huge increase in the water quality from 2018 to 2019, which means we're going in the right direction. So there's good news for the holidays. You have any of that? You pull that,
Excuse me, so nitrite, it's not nitrogen, is it, or is it?
No, you know, this is like the old days of having a fish tank. Remember, if you had a fish tank and nitrate or nitrite, that's what we're talking about. Different than what you're thinking.
It's not nitrogen fertilizer.
No.
Just wanna look at the graphs.
Yeah.
Michelle, if you can just scroll to the next page. Yeah.
You want a pointer, Matt? You want a little lazy paper?
What marks on there?
Yeah, I think this is one of ours.
Yeah.
Bob,
Thank you very much. So we started collecting data back it's June of 2018. The new regulation came into effect in April of 19. So what we did with the DEP staff when they came through initially is they wanted to look at all of the data that we collected to see if some of the things that we had implemented through the course of the year showed any kind of improvement. Just to go through the graph a little bit, the green is what we're measuring as total chlorine. The blue line is monofluorine, which is what we're creating at the plant by adding ammonia. The bottom line, the yellow line here is free ammonia, so ammonia that's in the water that hasn't combined with anything. And the black line here is nitrite. So you can see at Far Road, last year, in 2018, we had an event where this nitrite went up over the free ammonia line. So this is what we talk about in our nitrification control plan meetings. You never want to see this black line go above your free ammonia because you have ammonia oxidizing bacteria that's converting that ammonia to nitrite. And that is the very start of nitrification, the nitrification process. So you can see back in 2018 in Far Road, and even back here in 2018 in Sturbridge Court, we had these scenarios where the chlorine came down, our free ammonia bombed out, and we had nitrite going up. Since Jim put the flushers in and started moving some water, you can see in 19, we really haven't been in that condition. Sturbridge Court was great all through the summer. Far Road, we were good through the heart of the summer, and then at the end of September, it looks like it dipped down, and then we started flushing some more, and everything came back into the water.
So what the report talks about is measuring the chlorine when Jim starts flushing, and then measure it when he's done flushing to see whether we're being effective. So this is, I think we've got this fixed now, it's just a matter of tweaking the process and just making it even better. But this is great news for you guys. This is the work of the borough, Jim working with DEP. The report very clearly talks about, once again, you guys being in really good shape. And when Jim, I said, Jim, you gotta bring this up to these guys. It's important to let them know that you're doing a great job. So this is it. Once again, recommendations are on the report for you guys to consider, and then we'll get back in touch with staff and discuss how we might implement some of those other recommendations. Any questions?
Very good.
Dave, you have one announcement you want to do?
Mark Yoder retired after the December meeting, and Malin Boyer will be our new representative on the board. That's effective December. I think Mark's been with us for quite a few years. That's the only, and we're still waiting. Are we still waiting for the core?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
What
Is
day?
the report public?
Core
I'm sorry.
engineer, or, yeah, core engineer.
What's the question?
Is the report public?
Can he have a copy?
Yeah, it's a DEP report. You're gonna need to file an open records request to either the borough or Western Berks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the borough's report, so probably to the borough.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Guys, good.
Can I borrow that?
All right, well,
Save
thank
it
you,
on
guys.
this desktop to
And,
send it to my PC isn't gonna happen.
I think it's good news to start the new
That
year
would be
then,
great.
too.
Thank you.
I hope so.
Yeah, right. All right, moving along then, Michelle, you're up.
So you all should have gotten a copy of my November report. At the January meeting, I'll give you, like I do at the end of every year, a summarized report breaking down current fees and total number of permits, comparing it to prior years, just so you know where we stand. Flipping through to property maintenance code issues. We have a few that are still at the citation level. One that was a citation, actually two that were citations that have been resolved are 819 North Lansing Boulevard and 927 Franklin Street, so those citations have been withdrawn. Seem to be getting more compliance lately. There was an update to 1955 Lincoln Avenue. The property owner reached out to Kraft and notified them that he is still having health issues. He does intend to comply, he just asked for an additional time extension. And under zoning hearing board, a reminder that they will meet this Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. for the Wyomissing Industrial Park hearing regarding the parking situation.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you. Water system there, Jim?
We did have a main break over on Berkshire Court 2 or 3 weeks back. It was actually a service line, 40 Berkshire Court. Fixed it. Next day it came back. The pipe was so bad, came the day after it broke again. We ended up calling in Slough and ran a whole new 2-inch lateral to 40 Berkshire Court, so the problem won't appear. We'd have to put some businesses out of water for 3 or 4 hours in one day, but it's all complete.
Okay. Line sampling?
And B, we just took care of the emergency repair bid, Spring, if you remember, we're piggybacking with Spring Township. They are awarding the contract to Slough Incorporated, and Jim and I are recommending that we do the same, basically. There's no dollar amount to it. Chris is aware of the verbiage and was okay with it, so we just need a recommendation to award.
We're basically awarding a contract for unit prices for work that they may perform on an as-needed basis.
I move we recommend again. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Sewers.
This is the final payment app for Mr. Rehab, $13,196.80. This was for some point repairs, a few manhole linings, and a cleaning and TVing of the Berkeley and drainage basin. He came in under budget.
All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. That revised contract thing, is that,
So, wait,
oh,
do you wanna talk about the I-9 letter?
oh,
Yeah, that's just.
you okay?
Yeah, that was just a statement of what the final contract was.
Okay,
We had done that final adjusting quantity change order last month.
alright, so we don't need to do anything with that. Alright, anything else under sewers?
Well, let Jim speak to this letter
So
here.
this is actually something we did in Upper Burn Township, and I was kind of cynical that it wasn't gonna work. We actually just sent a voluntary compliance letter out to all the residents where we were getting I, and we had suspicion of some sump pumps and floor drains and other illicit connections to the sanitary sewer hooked up. And we got actually an overwhelmingly positive response where the residents actually called up the township or our office and said, hey, can you come out and look at this and let me know if this is correct or not? And in some cases it was, some cases it wasn't, but out of it, we got about a dozen sump pumps voluntarily disconnected, from the system, so.
There's sort of an amnesty letter.
Yeah, it's sort of a, here's like, this amnesty period for, if you self-report a violation and you repair it, there's no repercussions, there's no fines, just get it fixed, and then sort of like, if you don't down the road, you find it, then you're subject to all, fines and penalties of, all applicable laws and ordinances. And we got a really good, voluntary response. We probably, around maybe 8% of the residents contacted us or the township, and of the half of them that we went out and looked at, they actually had a connection. We were like, we'll get your plumber to do X, Y, and Z, and, call us when we're done and we'll come check in. So we got rid of some I&I, which, we have some issues down on the interceptor, we have some issues everywhere. We have I&I in the system. We know we have some pumps and roof drains and other exterior drains connected, and getting it out of it's gonna not have any type of overflows, gonna reduce potential for overflow back in people's basements and long-term, just sewer bills. We don't wanna pay to be treating groundwater or stormwater that's put into the pipes.
I think you're also educating the public by doing this. A lot of people don't know they're not supposed to be doing this, so
Right.
this might be the first step in
Because what happens, somebody's got water in their basement, they go to Lowe's or Home Depot, and somebody's there that says, you buy this sump pump, you stick it in the hole, you plug it in, they go, oh, you have a laundry sink? Here, use this 90-degree fitting that's perfect for your washing machine, so it won't fall out, put that in your wash tub. Well, that's great, except now we're getting all the groundwater in the system. And also, this is something that, DEP always wants to see as part of your ongoing I&I, that you're trying to provide education and compliance and work inside of the lateral into the house. You can also put something like this in as part of our MS4 educational component that we're doing. So we just thought, I was surprised it worked, but, I've tried to do these over the years and it hasn't worked, and maybe it's just because society's gotten a little more environmentally conscious than, say, 20 years ago, or 40 years ago.
So can we include this with a mailing or something, is that,
You just do it as a bulk mailing.
or can it be with something else and we send stuff out, or?
It's
So-
probably,
For it to get read, it should go out individually.
yeah, and
We sent them on pink
Otherwise,
paper. Upper Burn sent it on pink paper to get people's attention.
they say that works.
I prefer lime green.
We could do lime green. Do we have to have a color selection committee?
So these people that have sump pumps and the downspouts, where does the water, where do they take it?
They just discharge it over the lawn, so it runs out to the street or the alley or anywhere but the storm sewer, or anywhere but the sanitary sewer. They can tie it.
By code, it's supposed to go into a rain meter out to the street.
Yeah,
And that's possible a lot of the time, but sometimes it's not, it's just a judgment call. You can't screw up your neighbor's property.
Or if your house is lower than the gutter on the street, you can't get your roof leaders to go out there.
Or if you have such a large volume that you're gonna generate ice in the wintertime, that's, there's some things that have to be special situations and addressed on a unique basis. But a lot of situations can be resolved
Yeah.
fairly easily.
Okay, good idea, why not go give it a shot?
is someone willing to make a formal motion to authorize staff to send that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's a good one. Okay, streets.
I got a call a few weeks back from Mike Ast, some of you might remember him from UGI, when they were doing the Get Gas program over the hills. Well, sure enough, a few months after we paved Wellington Boulevard, the gentleman at 65 Wellington wants gas service. I don't have any details, but Mike let me know somehow that he was feeling pressure from above, because I normally wouldn't get a call from him, I just get a street cut from him. So I don't know who lives at 65 Wellington or how much pull or weight they have, but,
Who's above? Who's above?
I don't know. It's very unusual that he would call me for a situation like this and write a letter. So he's feeling it from somewhere, but I don't know where. I don't know, Chris, did you look into the,
Well, what is the time period that after repaving occurs? there's-
our normal scenario is if you cut the street within 5 years of paving, you pay a $500 penalty fee. But in this case, $500 ain't near enough. That's a beautiful big road.
We just did the FDR, so the base is like concrete.
That's typical, $500 within 5 years.
Do you recall, is that $500 discretionary as far as could it be a larger amount, or is that a standard
I
rate?
don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
If you follow the PennDOT criteria, so if we'd use liquid fuels to do that road, it would go back to PennDOT, which would require full width mill and overlay in a 5-year period after putting wear and course on.
So more than $500.
Yeah.
As I understand it, the gas main would be on the State Hill Road side, 65 is on the opposite side. So they have to locate the water lines, the sewer line, and I guess an entry and exit hole.
Well, what would be the restoration cost? I mean, what you described, is that thousands of dollars?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're coming from State Hill to 65? From State Hill in?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where 65 is, but I just know it's on, if you're coming from State Hill up the road, it's on the left-hand side, and the gas main's on the right-hand side. In the planning
Right
street.
there?
Can't we deny it?
Yeah, we can.
Well, I
Well,
would
depending on your
suggest-
agreement.
I would suggest that you indicate what the full restoration cost would be. Maybe make it, could be undesirable for them to pay that penalty.
Yeah.
But, eventually, really paved roads get dug up. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
knew it was
just a
up that
matter of
way.
time.
Is it the blue one?
But
Yeah.
this is a pretty quick
65.
turnaround, and,
Yes.
it's not something that you want to let them know without some
And was
consequences.
sort of thought, that's some big marketing effort or something in the neighborhood, because we were gonna pay, and they wanted.
The little bit of history there is they gave us, and I forget the dollar amount, a substantial amount of money to repave the streets in the area. We were to give them 5 years of time to market to all the homes over there. And it's been more than 5 years, I think it's been 7 or 8 years. And here we go, the minute we pave it, we get a request.
I don't know, they replaced the line in my front yard, they bored, so they didn't dig it.
And they will bore it, but they still have to have an entry and exit, and they still need to, I guess by their rules or law, they have to find the water and sewer mains when they're
Yeah.
boring, they don't hit it. And to do that, you have to do an excavation.
Go with Chris's suggestion. Throw out what it costs and see what happens.
So tell them they can do it, but they have to restore the road based on,
Yeah, we could just use the milling and overlay for pricing our 2019 road program. If we're really gonna do it, then add that to our 2020 program. Have them pay for it.
As a trench, or what would be the extent of the?
Well, the file pen, I think it's either 30 or 50 feet each way from the excavation full width. So he was talking about like 80 to 120 feet of street mill everywhere.
Yeah, we should get, need to make it as painful as possible.
You don't want to open it like a street right after you do it. I mean, that's just, makes everyone look stupid. They knew this. We sent them a letter. They knew what streets we were doing last year, the year before we did it, so.
Same owner?
Well, we notified UGI.
Well, we have a resident, a taxpayer resident, who wants to switch the game.
He's gotta learn to
We should
love the rule
reasonably-
again.
We should reasonably accommodate.
He wasn't reasonable, why should we be?
That's what I said, is it resident, it's not like somebody just moved in there.
I don't know the details of who lives there.
Hold on, I can
The
tell you
deed
that. So last change in September of 2018.
No.
About a year.
It may end up with a negotiation, so why don't we start?
About
with what you
17,000,
guys are saying?
about 17,000 to mill and overlay, 120 feet by 24 feet wide.
You can buy a lot of oil for that.
Well, like Jim and I will work up a letter,
Yeah.
let you read it before we send it out.
Yeah, I think the right answer is that they should reserve the new road that the borough just made. And, restoring it is what's necessary to keep it in as close as possible to its new condition. If they wait 5 years, it'll be a much different, expense to them. But for the current year and the next 4 years, they have to observe this expensive process. So, we'll do it.
Okay. D.
We have Ronnie Folks, application to reduce the retainage to 2%. At this point, everything's done, we were just holding something till springtime to make sure the grass and that kind of stuff is grown, and I think Jim and I are both comfortable with what they won't
We're
have.
still holding $23,000.
Yeah, they're not gonna $23,000 worth of grass to repair. So, we would recommend that you authorize that payment.
Okay, for that's number 8 there? No.
Payment number 8.
Yeah. Somebody wanna make that motion?
Yes.
Paul makes the motion.
So how many dollars am I recommending?
$35,238.16,
Thank you.
and then I would leave $23,492.11 in retainage.
Second.
Second, all right, any other discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, anything else you wanna mention there, any other?
For 2020, I think we're all aware of this, the streets now, it's Hill Avenue from 8th to Park, Reading Boulevard from Cambridge to Squire, and Cherrywood, the entire length over there in Greenwood Mall. Jim and I have talked about it briefly, but I guess we'd like to bid it as early as possible and have a council recommendation March.
February Infrastructure Council March.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's a technicality or not, but we usually approve me writing curb letters to people who have to replace curb.
Before that,
Yeah, I'd send them out. I've already taken measurements. and things. I just need to send a letter out, but we need approval.
all right? So moved. Steve, motion, Tom, second. Anything else for the letter there? All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it.
The- okay,
I told George
White decided 50-50.
No action there, we still owe them $6,000, but that will wait till spring, because there's always restoration issues following spring when the grant doesn't.
Is there, just sidewalks in general, is there something that can be done with some that are like really, really bad?
As of next year, it'll be 5 years of the 50/50 sidewalk program completed, and we decided when we started that, we were gonna give it 5 years, and on the other side of that, start taking enforcement action. So,
those-
yes,
So those that have absolutely ignored the thing for the time we've already had, you can't do anything about that?
I think what we should probably do is sit down in-house and come up with a list of the ones, you know what I mean, like, start at the top with the worst, the ones that have very obvious tripping hazards where,
5/8.
yeah,
How much?
five.
One of the, US
How
Supreme
about
Court
5
ruled,
to 8 inches?
they ruled 5/8 differential between blocks is a trip hazard.
Got about,
So basically 3/4 of an inch or more is a trip hazard.
Maybe 3. Well, there's one that I passed, not
I think I was
bad.
gonna start with like 3 or 4 inches.
Yeah,
So even then you'd have a lot.
5/8 is what's been established as the court basis for too much deviation between sidewalk pads.
And how about ones that are like broken?
Well, if they're broken, they would be replaced on that, but you have a whole sidewalk ordinance that gives
Yeah.
Michelle or Jim, I think Michelle, Jim, or borough engineer power to go out and be like, your sidewalks need to be replaced and send a letter, but you haven't really enforced it to that level historically. And I think that's what the sidewalk program was, kind of give a 5-year grace period before you did that. But you do have some that are unrelated to the trees, they're just bad sidewalk, that wouldn't be eligible.
Often have to discuss with people, they call for the sidewalk program, and they just have old sidewalk, and I'm like, no, it's, we're looking for issues where the tree has heaved the sidewalk, we're not here to replace just your old sidewalk, we're looking for tripping hazards caused by trees, that's the intent of the program.
I mean, I passed one frequently walking down Evans Avenue on the east side that has got to be 8 inches. I mean, it's really ridiculous, it's one of the worst that I've walked past.
gonna get some
On that.
What's that?
Not 1,000.
From Old House, corner, how's that?
That's.
Perfect. I would put you on the That's just me.
Yeah.
So hard about saying that before.
I don't know, I mean, it's horrendous.
Maybe we could come up
I can't
with
believe-
some idea of how we can notify the residents that we've got, 5 years is up.
Well, I think we had talked about the next newsletter, so they sign up, because this is the last
I
year.
have a reminder on my calendar for when Melissa and I talk about newsletter topics to put that, and I was also gonna suggest we do the reverse email for anyone that signed up for the website notifications. Depending, I think we have like, 120 characters on a utility bill. But again, you can give them the information in so many ways, but that doesn't mean people are gonna read it.
No.
But at least we can say we covered ourselves.
And the website,
Well, yeah,
and see what happens, see if we get.
There's a lot of bad places. When I walk down the boulevard,
I know. It's better to walk in the street, it's safer.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? To my knowledge, the sidewalks are borough property, is that incorrect?
That's incorrect.
They're on borough land.
They're in the public road right away, but the residences are by ordinance required to maintain the sidewalk along their frontage. In addition to the
And
curb.
maintaining
And the
it
curb.
And the
means
curb.
more than just washing it and blowing it and whatever.
It means replacing it to the borough standard, so if it heaves, falls over, cracks, deteriorates, it has to be brought up back to borough code.
Okay, the pedestrian bridge, anything special there?
table till next year.
Well, the grant,
You know, I
the
just-
permit application's filed, so we expect the permit to be issued in the spring of 2020.
Okay.
Is it still structurally sound?
Rich?
98%.
I'll walk over it.
There's that one sauce.
It's not to the point where it has to be closed yet.
That's all I wanted to know.
And the part that's the problem, is it the foundation or is it just the boards?
But everything's really. It's just at the end of the service life, it's tired. It's like our knees, Steve.
They're tired. That's gross negligence, though.
All right, Green Light Go.
That is the first one, which is all the work is completed and Phyllis has submitted all the funding reimbursements to PennDOT, so we're just waiting to get a PennDOT review because they'll want something changed or a check. So odds are at some point Phyllis will get a letter from them if something needs to be changed, and she'll change it.
Okay, so, progress.
All the work's done and been accepted, so, and that's all. All of those signals are done, all the emergency preemption, that's all up and running and has been final, blessed by PennDOT. So that first phase is done, other than us getting our money back.
Okay, so, we need to cover it, that they're down, it's down there 3 times, we need to.
Well, that's three different, last slide. It's like,
Yeah, we battle over what we're gonna call these things. Number 9, if you wanna call it 1, number 2, or number 10, we could call number 2, which is, we've already gotten that, we haven't gotten money, but we've gotten accepted for the grant.
Right.
Number 11 is far off in the future.
right, that's getting submitted in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know, would you prefer to call them like 1 or 2? I think actually the one we're submitting for is round 6 by PennDOT. But we can just call them 1, 2, and 3 if that's easier.
Okay, so 9 is 1, 10
Yep.
is 2,
11 is 3.
11 is 3.
Senior, junior, first and
All right. Progress, all right, master plan?
you skip 4th Street.
Skip 12.
Did I do skip one? Oh, I did.
Small one,
Go to 12.
Did I say no last week?
The what?
The line striping for the roads.
Update on
We
4th.
get it on there.
Yeah, if you email it to me. Update on 4th Street, you're all aware we got the DCED award, the PennDOT MTF application is in, they should be making a decision late January, early February. Working with, this is a little bit further down the agenda, but working with Kristen Jim's office to finalize the documents for the vacation of the alleys. Anything else I'm forgetting?
Planning to close before the end of the month for the Scott Stevenson building. I'm waiting for the title work to come back.
Oh, I do have one update to that. Meeting, I met again with, 2 higher ups at Teleflex last week. I have another meeting with them tomorrow and some of their staff members. Since Teleflex's new office is pretty much directly on the route, they have committed to providing funding in some way, shape, or form, but they wanna see what the feedback is. They apparently have several staff members that bike to work or that go out on their lunch breaks. So based off, feedback that I get at the meeting tomorrow, how many people show up, I think to some extent is gonna determine the amount of their contribution. But that's another guaranteed funding source that I should have a better idea on dollar amount by the end of the year.
So is some of that equipment to be installed soon, like, or what?
All in 2020,
All in 2020?
don't have it
I
yet.
get that cement pad down in Old Mill, is that
The one that already went in,
a circle?
so that pad is for, a bike repair station that Bamba and Oak Brook Brewing gave us free of charge. It's gonna be a complement to 2 others that we're putting in as part of 4th Street.
Is that like a foundation for it or something?
Yes,
And what, does it need power?
no. It's just think of it almost as the equivalent of like a street sign pole, but not as tall, and then it has with the type of cable you can't cut with a cable cutter, it has various bike tools for, if you get a flat tire and need to change your tire, if you have issues with your gears. It's kind of like a multi-use tool for cyclists. What are you doing?
Send them to
So we
sleep.
do that.
It's small, so I'm
Trying to figure out a way to cut that cable.
Sometimes it takes a while to get
Pop out.
the server until it like performs it.
What's the schools that are that valuable?
On those, no. Well, maybe I can. I don't know about the one that Bam's giving us, the ones that I'm getting from 4th Street, yes, it'll have like a handle on it.
Okay,
Let's go back to 4th Street, because the drawings aren't loading up yet from the email.
I haven't gotten the email there.
So Michelle, are you gonna man that repair station on the weekend?
Sure. Gonna convince everybody to ride tubeless so they don't have to worry about fixing a flat.
I guess we don't need it all
Sure, come back to it. I'm telling you,
Let's go back.
it could take 15 to 20 minutes for that to come.
Kids will be messing with that for like 2 minutes.
Let's come back to 4th Street until that loads up, for the reason why it's not.
Okay, so now on to master plan study. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. will be the draft final recommendations report and, we just came through, and, proposed zoning recommendations. I sent electronic copies out of those 2 documents to everybody this afternoon with a reminder that the meeting will be held tomorrow. John, just because it kind of piggybacks, did you get any information from Mark Radcliffe as to their presentation last week electronically?
I did not.
Okay.
I was at the meeting for about 45 minutes before our council meeting.
I'll follow up with Mark. We're trying, West Reading and Wyomissing, we've agreed to keep each other in the loop with where we are at various points of the study, so I invited Mark to attend the meeting tomorrow as far as I know he's coming.
One thing I learned there that, right before I left, I asked the, Dirk and Edson people, have you met with the Equus people yet? No, but we're going to. So we could do it ASAP.
They're like halfway through their study.
Yeah. I think that's odd.
Meeting's gonna be in this room.
I'm sorry?
The meeting will be here.
Yes.
That's big enough.
Yeah, should be. I know a few people can attend. So,
Okay,
the
go
back,
ahead, Jim.
back to forward.
Alright, so here is the latest and greatest. 4th Street has the designs progressing with some minor changes. So,
I don't know why I just pulled out.
you will need all of them, but this one's good to start with. So this is North Wyomissing Boulevard, 4th Street is here, Abu Steph's there. There's a lot we require from spots. So actually, because of the traffic controller and a pole there, we're gonna actually have a right turn lane here and leave a little pork chop island there. And it'll cut a little into this lot, but nothing major. So you will be able to, coming eastbound, you'll be able to make that right. Coming out of 4th, you'll only be able to go right. So you won't be able to go straight across, you won't be able to go left. Coming off the highway, you have your designated left turn lane here to make the left in, and then we'll have 2 lanes going through here. Coming down 4th, you can again only make the right turn, no cross. Coming east, you will have a dedicated left turn lane, which really has, there's all the really minimal traffic, but just to have the lanes lined up, it made sense to have that there with a single through lane. And then after you get by Brad Hall's driveway, this will go back to a 2-lane exiting. So it's pretty much what we talked about with really this one aspect being the only change, where we're keeping a curved island here. Then
So this is like a park and we're going to see.
Yep. Parking was what I'm missing, so this will now be, when we, can we go to park and, well, this is parking ban.
No, that's parking ban.
That's parking ban, we need parking with what I'm missing first. That makes more sense. Yep.
Yeah, that's Park and North Wyomissing or something.
So now we will only have, when you come up to Park, you will have a left, a straight, and a right. So we'll be getting rid of that double left turn that confuses everyone that's not from around here when they go through that. The other thing is the signal will be redone. Right now, we have that advanced, or we have a split signal now. When you're coming down the hill, it lets you make the lefts, like you get like one car, then it changes red, and then it lets the cars go through coming this way. What we'll have now is the lefts will happen at the same time. So your down the hill lefts will be the same as your coming up from the highway lefts, and it'll be, that'll be advanced of any of the other movements, which is good. PennDOT doesn't allow those split phase lefts anymore. So we're kind of cleaning that up. And as part of this, we're gonna we're realigning these lanes through this whole template. So if we're coming from in at Reading, make a right only, go straight only, left only, one lane going from North Wyomissing south. Is that right? No, it's not. Traffic engineers don't know where north is. North's that way.
Yeah, that's right, north is that way. Yeah, it is, that's west. West is that way, east is that way, south is that way.
Yes,
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Steve, where's north?
He's right. Steve's right. You're right. So that's how all the lanes are gonna fit. We're leaving the curb lines alone. This is basically all just restriping through there. The one thing we were hoping was that PennDOT could do a mill and overlay to the road while we were doing all this, and that would really help eradicate the stripes. But when Jim talked to the maintenance department, that wasn't up their
Well,
radar.
I don't get an answer.
Oh, there we go back there.
Do you want me to?
Somebody
run
got
that
an
up
answer.
The flagpole?
Hmm?
You want me to run that up the flagpole?
If you have more weight, yeah,
So we're gonna call Jenny.
I'm going to.
Because it would make sense while we're doing all this other work in the area, that PennDOT at least come and mill from the bridge up past the Berkshire Heights Fire Company, because that's where we're basically restriping the road, and then our striping goes down on brand new Macadam.
You want it bridge down to crossing?
Is that?
Bridge down to crossing? Oh, I'm sorry, Spring Street.
Yeah, Bridges Spring Street's fine. We're not doing anything that far, but.
It's getting pretty bad over
yeah, that whole,
Well, yeah, it's all-
Park Road from
That's
Penn to
falling
the
apart.
Inn at Reading is.
Well, they've crack sealed it numerous times, which, it's time,
there. Yeah.
they need to do something with it.
That's Van Reed.
That's Van Reed. The only thing we got at Van Reed is out of the, is somebody Jim in here? The thing that I brought up before keeps coming out of this, all this work about, right now, trucks are prohibited from going across Park on North Wyomissing Boulevard. They have to come up and make a right on Van Reed, which has an inadequate radius. So what TBD keeps coming back to us is we should be considering opening North Wyomissing from Park to Van Reed up for trucks and not have them try and make this maneuver. Because right now, the right lane that they pull up in is 19 feet wide, and they still can't make the turn. When we're done, they're gonna have 12 feet. They're not gonna be able to make that turn there. And I think from what it sounded like historically, I guess the reason why there's no truck traffic in North Wyomissing, the best I've found from the chief and hearsay, or folklore, was running back and forth between Cott's warehouses, when they had the one up the top of the hill and the other one.
And we did that for an accommodation of the residents over there and the school.
Right, which
Wrights Elementary was still going.
Right, we're still in a public school over there at the time.
Yeah.
Well, Wilson did reach out at the last town and gown meeting. I'm gonna follow up with Jeff Simcox, who is the equivalent of the facilities director for Wilson School District. Wilson are going to ask if the borough can work with them to do something to attempt to reduce speed on North Wyomissing Boulevard, because it's kind of the same problem as Wellington, that it's an extremely wide road. And vehicles are traveling up and down it, exceeding the speed limit, because it does give that width perception of, I'm on a highway, and parents crossing the street, dropping their kids off, picking their kids up from the preschool that's there, are complaining that it's it's only gonna be a matter of time until the child gets it.
And I said, when we usually do those traffic studies, they're not going as fast as they think they are.
No.
But we can find out.
One of the things that the residents were concerned about over there was the amount of truck traffic, and then, some of the guys that were driving the trucks were coming down the hill and then pulling the Jake brakes, and then backing the things off at 2 o'clock in the morning, it just, in a residential area, it just didn't go over very well.
Well, I don't think we really have that kind of, I don't think Palmer's not even open at night.
No, Palmer's doesn't run like that.
And I don't know anybody else up there that really has any,
They're actually
Truck.
going down, they go down Spring Street and then hit State Hill Road and loop up on the bypass.
oh no, they come up here, they drive past my office.
Do they really?
Oh yeah, they get stuck here all the time. Cars gotta back up, 5 or 6 cars gotta back up 150 feet to let them finish making the turn.
Yeah, that, and Van Reed there isn't, built for trucks.
No.
That has pavement issues because of trucks.
And it's just the grade of this stuff for trucks too.
So what's the answer?
Well, TPD and us are recommending that we open North Wyoming Boulevard back up for trucks.
It is open, to clarify, it's open from the interchange to the intersection of Park Road. Everything west of that, it is not.
It's closed, it's closed from Parkton to Van Reed. Because they're allowed to come in Spring Street.
Well, but, I mean,
It's
that's,
basically, yeah, it's that one,
it's not North Wyoming Boulevard, I guess it is for one block.
Needs to be changed.
Yeah, if we would do that, it would be safer, right?
Do you want me
Yeah,
to,
so.
Well, if we
Have it out.
reach out to Palmer's, we could make some kind of agreement with Palmer and say, hey, go down to the loop up on the bypass and just take the loop around instead of trying to use the street. 1 or 2 trucks every now and again it would hurt.
not to pass the buck, but you want me to put it on the F&P agenda?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Talk about it there. Okay,
so that was basically it. Just an update on that. Everything's proceeding forward. We're hoping to have TBD's plan on resubmitting to PennDOT at the end of the month. And then we just have to decide, by our original schedule, we should have put this out to bid in January. So we're just gonna have to decide when we want to do that. I think maybe at minimum we push it to February, at least get PennDOT's comments back on the next round. And then maybe we bid it in February with opening in March, award in, April.
Is that enough time to get it done?
Fire drill.
Not really. Get it done. Well, PennDOT held us up 6 months, really, with just the answer on the roundabout is really, we're 6 months behind with them. And I guess we're not gonna know about their grant funding till February now, right? So,
Well, if it's gonna happen, why don't we put it out in January? So we don't.
Save time to prepare.
well, we can put it out, the issue that comes in if we put it out and then PennDOT comes back with some changes and they're significant, then we're immediately awarding a bid out of the gate with all kinds of change orders. Because you don't get your best value in the change order phase versus the bidding phase. That's why the 180-foot yacht's called change order, the dinghy's called original contract, if you ever seen that cartoon.
Michelle, who are those trucks parked across the street from the old hot?
They go, I mean, good question, I've seen 1 or 2 of them there from time to time. My understanding is they go with Manning Creek Plaza, now owns what was COT. But they go along with that, but I mean, short of going up there and running plates every time one's parked there to see who it's registered to.
Cause there is somebody in that guard shack too. Saw that the other day, somebody asked, who's putting that crossing sign out? The guard is doing it, that puts the, it's a state law.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guard is putting that out.
Interesting, I mean,
Never saw guard.
Yeah, I saw it the other day.
the rumor I was told is that Manning Creek bought that, mothballed it, and is effectively using it for storage. I don't know if that's actually true, but I have seen every so often a truck at the loading dock. I
Yeah,
don't.
no, the other day there were 3
Manning
trucks in
Creek,
that.
Giorgio Foods.
over the weekend, there's
Is that Bush Road?
there's a
Yeah. Well, here.
Yeah,
Is it
Plenty of
occupied
mushrooms.
not that I'm aware of.
legally? Oh,
I mean, in terms of storage, yes. In terms of, am I aware that any business is operating out of there, nor have I ever seen anything to make me think that, no.
I think the
Trucks.
fire department ought to know there's stuff in there if there is.
They do know as far
Do
as
they?
I'm aware.
Okay.
There's trucks going in and out there every day. Still loading docks? Not a lot of them, 4 or 5 days.
All right.
Maybe we ought to, invite somebody from Maiden Creek, AKA Giorgio, to our, economic development meeting, saying, hey, what's the plan here?
I've tried multiple times.
But you had.
I don't get return phone calls.
Oh, that's.
Thanks.
The big guy on it.
Anything else with that? Okay, items,
Catch you.
13. Anything else for that?
No.
Public Works, progress? What do we?
That's just on there as a friendly reminder for next year.
Yeah, window replacements?
There'll be no action until next, oh, you must have the old one, I told you.
We took that off.
You should take that off, we'll put it back on in the springtime.
They have an update.
Oh. Okay, so that was old. Right. How about the alley?
That's just in process.
Yeah, we're fine tuning some exhibits that go with the ordinances, and I'm hoping till your next meeting, we'll have all that in order to recommend it to council.
Okay. Duck pond.
We took that off too. The next one we have is Clayton and Penn.
Jeez, oh. All right, go ahead.
Clayton and Penn Signal, that's where, back in July, June or July, the chief sent, Chris Irby PennDOT a note about, it was hard to see when you're coming down the light at Clayton and Penn versus the light at the interchange. So, really without PennDOT even talking to anybody, they redesigned the whole traffic signal scenario, mast arms and everything of Clayton and Penn, and then sent it to us and said, after you guys do all this work, sign the Mylar and send it back to us.
$13,000. And I guess between the chief, me and Jim were like, I don't think it's gonna solve any issue. And the question is, do we have to make these changes or not? I mean, we requested the PennDOT look at it, and they did and sent us back a design. The design costs $13,000 to implement, but do we have to do it now that it got to that point? Because it doesn't seem like it's gonna make much difference.
Take it off the list.
I mean, typically they, like I, you know, Wilmsdorf are 419 and 422 that we asked them to look at, we went back and forth and then agreed if we want to go forward, they would revise the signal diagram at the department and we would pay for the work. So that kind of whole thing got skipped, they just went and changed the signal diagram and sent it to the chief and said, when you're done, have Pat sign this and send it back to us. So,
I can't think of any reason why we can help to do it. It seems like it was a voluntary borough project, and we communicated with them, to get input from them. I don't know why it would be required to do it.
But I don't know if I just send the letter to Chris or Ovi or somebody sends a letter to Chris saying, hey, thank you for doing that, but we kind of figured the department was gonna pay for this, not us. You know?
I don't remember the police and fire committee asking for
Yeah,
this,
all the
but
signals are actually half of it. It's one of our 29.
No, because the last thing Jeff said that, hey, they're gonna come in, they're gonna change it around, they're gonna put, no right turn on red up, and we thought, wow.
Yeah.
And we thought, gee, when's this project gonna start? You know?
According to PennDOT, when we pay for it.
Yeah. So that's your only recommendation, whatever they gave to you is that's the only way they're gonna fix this whole problem down there?
Well, we would fix it.
Yeah.
Right, but
Basically, they give us the design and said, here, go do this, it'll fix it.
But the fact of the matter is, it really won't. And
What
it's
they're
just somebody's
saying
opinion,
won't
it's our
serve.
opinion, I mean, if anybody wants to look at the design, they can, but it seemed to me like it's
What
gonna.
would change it other than no right turn?
Well, the light, they moved the lights, the mast, because we need new mast arms, so the lights are now over top of each lane.
Yeah,
So I think that was what they were saying, if they were over top of the lane, you won't see the next, but you're still just coming down that hill, you're gonna see the interchange signal too.
My thought was for $100, you put a sign on the right hand, on the railroad side of Penn Avenue, that says traffic signal ahead. I don't know if it'll do anything or not.
This one, not this one.
Two traffic signals ahead.
all
I
right.
went through that intersection on the way here, it.
and I know they don't do it anymore, but you know what would solve
The
it?
flashing
Those
lights.
strobes. That would solve the
Let's go
problem.
steal them from Route 100 in Exton where they put them.
Amen.
So, to kind of piggyback onto this, after the pedestrian accident at Dosey a couple weeks ago, Greg Boja, who owns Boja Engineering, which coincidentally is a traffic engineering firm, reached out to me and asked if he could set up a meeting to talk about his concerns and suggestions for maybe some traffic calming measures. So he met with Tom Mendy and I this morning. I have a bunch of handouts that he gave us that I'm gonna forward to the committee, and then assuming the committee's in favor, I'm going to ask him to attend the January meeting. One of the issues we discussed is, I'm not sure. Well, yes, there's that. I have to, I can't tell if it's this one or not. I guess PennDOT, this is not it. PennDOT has historically been asked if we could change the flashing sign at the fire station to one that only goes off when, I guess, the trucks are triggered. And we've always received a no from PennDOT. Apparently other districts, including District 6, are in favor of allowing fire departments to do that. So that was maybe one of Greg's suggestions, is that we put some type of flashing sign further west, kind of where the speed limit goes from 40 down to 30. Assuming PennDOT will approve the sign in front of the firehouse to be changed. I know, but he's making the point that something like this, I know, we also had that conversation. So, again, assuming the committee's in favor of it, I would encourage you to allow him to attend the January meeting to discuss some of the things he's thinking we may be able to do. I mean, not only does he have a bird's eye view out of his office window of what's going on there, he is a traffic engineer. I know you, stop.
Well, what's the sign say?
This one is a warning that the speed limit's being reduced ahead.
Well, that's not what you checked it out.
This is just an example of something we could do. Some other suggestions that he had were, he recently, good question, yeah.
He's doing this for free.
I mean, he's doing this for free in terms of coming in and giving us some ideas. So, this is something that was recently done, going from the garage across the street from the Doggle Works is over here on the left. The IMAX theater is out of the picture, but it's taken with the IMAX theater behind you. They extended, a portion of the sidewalk, so where this used to be 70+ feet to get from one area of the sidewalk across the street to the other, they bumped out the curb line in the sidewalk, so now there's only 40 feet of travel. So it gives a pedestrian time to actually get across the street. So again, just things he's throwing out there that are possibilities, but he can describe them in depth, and I'll send you this email so you have the visuals to go along with what he's missing.
Start to finish line. I like that they put pedestrian crossing things in the middle of the street on South Fifth and Museum Road near the Reading Hospital. There's like 4 of them. One of them's already knocked over. It hasn't been a week.
Oh, they wouldn't last an avenue for no way. I'd be surprised if it ate.
Okay. Thank you for the information. All right, Bill and George.
I guess that's going back to fire and police, because they didn't take action on it. They were under the impression that there was some zoning variance tied to it, which there isn't. This is to change George to one way away from Penn, up the hill, and also the alley to the east, or west of George, one way from Byrne up into George. And then eventually have a four-way stop at Hill and George. And then whatever happens with the parking lot that is gated off, that driveway would be reconfigured to not remain where it is today.
They get 90 degrees in every direction or something.
Or have them come into their own driveway up closer to the front of the apartment building, condo building.
Just to clarify, when this goes back to F and P, what's the source of the zoning hearing? Okay, so this is the Arrow property. This right here is the strip that has the Army Recruiting Center on the east side, and then it's Baja Beach on the west side. There's a parking lot right here that the owners of the Wyomissing Industrial Park, which is this whole property, encompasses everything from Gold's Gym down to the Army Recruiting Center and includes the works. The Wyomissing Industrial Park property has leased this 93 space parking lot from historically Arrow International. That lease transferred to Metropolitan when the property sold hands. To make this just very simple for the purposes of the meeting, those two owners have not been able to agree on what the monthly lease cost should be for Wyomissing Industrial Park to continue using those parking spaces. The owners of the Wyomissing Industrial Park went to the Metropolitan owners and said, we are no longer continuing this lease. As of the end of August, that lease became null and void because multiple tenants within the Wyomissing Industrial Park have obtained zoning hearing board approval to allow them to operate with testimony provided that stated they were allowed to use parking spaces within that parking lot they no longer have the right to use. Every one of those zoning hearing board decisions now either needs to be reaffirmed by the zoning hearing board with the understanding that those tenants may no longer use those parking spaces, or the board will come back and tell them, you need to cut back operations to XYZ level since you no longer have these parking spaces. But it
There's
Mm-hmm.
hasn't,
6 or 7 zoning decisions, right?
there's like 11 actually, going back to 2003. So the area in question that we're proposing to make one way that Jim was referring to is right here. While yes, traffic flowing up or down George Avenue can access that parking lot, nothing that happens with this parking lot has any bearing over traffic traveling on George.
And then the alley as well will be one way from Byrne up to George.
This.
That would get rid of one, I mean, that's a horrible intersection when you come down George and Byrne and
Yeah, right
you
there.
can't see anywhere, it's just, and the day I was out there looking at it, everyone uses that as a cut through. They either come around and go down through the alley to get the Byrne, or they come down and turn on the Byrne, or they come around Penn. And we should be trying to push them back to Reading where we have the signal.
Does Metropolitan need that parking lot to?
No,
No.
Can they agree to sell it to the back and forth?
Sometimes neighbors just don't agree. Right, if they could agree, this would continue on for
But
shared
I
parking.
thought they had an agreement with the post office to get some spaces there.
Not 93, or 92, whatever is in all those decisions.
When Michelle comes back, she can address it.
That might be
I don't
part of
think
it.
anybody's gonna park at the post office, they're going to Baja Beach or
Well,
the
they-
recruiting center.
Might solve the problem.
What is she getting?
No,
She's
she
just
gets,
like-
she'll be back.
Yeah, she'll be fine.
Gotcha.
While we're waiting, are you doing any patchwork yet, or is it too late?
Asphalt.
Yeah.
We'll be filling potholes shortly, but we're not, no, it's not the asphalt season.
There's there's two jawbreakers in 1700 block and 1800 block.
I just
Red
need the
Bull.
time, people.
Jinx it,
I could dump a load off your driveway.
And a shovel.
And a shovel.
Post office? Is that
Parking at the post office.
Is that really helping these guys?
I mean, it's 40 spaces they're supposedly gonna have the right to use, so, I mean, they're gonna give the argument that a trade of, they were getting 93 spaces from the Arrow property, 40 of them are gonna be relocated to the post office property. But there's also, I think what the zoning hearing board's gonna do, assuming they grant the relief requested, is require Wyomissing Industrial Park to put in interior parking, which there's an area that Chip's testified at prior hearings, they could probably get in 30 to 60 spaces. So my guess is the board's gonna say, if we give you this approval, it's conditioned upon you pulling the building permit to create this indoor parking area.
Right? Okay. Anything else for Bill and George there? All right? That's the right one. Storm and flood damage report
We're still waiting the price from the pipelining contractor to reline the pipe through the Brandywine Lincoln area, and we still have not received any of the info back from FEMA at this point.
there. Anything else on the other things there?
I forwarded 7 questions to the borough manager, got an automatic, the draft committee, and also the engineer, I got an automatic reply back, and he was out until today, so I probably didn't draft these questions. Whether they are.
We have answers. To the ones that were submitted. And we'll just give a copy of that there.
Yeah.
Between you and Jim, we'll answer the dots.
First dot is those roots have been removed, but I'm still awaiting the tape, if you will, to review it, but they have been cut. Item number 2, the clear water, same scenario, the camera went through there a second time, but I need to review the tapes, which I should have shortly, to see if that condition continues, or if it was just a fluke from the first time the camera went through.
And he said initially that,
It looked like a sump pump issue to me.
yeah, but the review would probably be done in the first quarter, because we've already retained payment, full payment to the contract, right?
Say that again?
You said at one time that usually you retain some money back until you completely go through the tapes, and that's usually done in the spring.
No, we will have the tape, within a week or two.
I understand that, but for you to go through the review.
Sometime, I can't say now, but sometime January, February, March. I'll
That's
look at
fine.
it.
First quarter, which is.
Yeah, first quarter is fair.
Okay, dot 3.
I guess you've got the list of the addresses where we put the lids. Apparently you have some other areas you think are of need, and that's fine. If you wanna draw me a map or give me addresses, I'll surely look at them.
All right.
We did initially what
Well,
seemed obvious.
I understand that.
So I'm not opposed to adding more in the
So
future.
we'll review that.
And you have them, right?
Yes.
All right, dot 4. The budget shows,
I forget what the
Is
exact
that right
dollar figure is,
correctly?
but
I looked at
we
it.
have money budgeted. In that area, the two things that will be most prudent are an additional large inlet at Coolidge Circle there by Dr. Sweet's house, and enlarging or changing inlet tops at Brandywine and Lincoln, and some pipe work there, although it's not been designed or anything at this point, but that's where the money is intended for. portion of that.
But how do you do something like that when you don't have finalized report, executive summary, that the engineer was gonna come up with a list of priorities? I mean, you stating that is fine, but if the engineer comes back with different priorities, the money's gonna go there.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for an approximation that we put down 100,000, so when we see the report come back, we're gonna say, well, too bad, for 2020, it's not gonna get done, it's gonna get done in 2021, that's all.
I guess I should say that's our intent, subject to change.
Well, that I understand. So you put basically $100,000 in the budget for things that come out of drainage. Is that fair to say?
Seems fair.
Okay. That's fine, that's all I need.
Okay, did we cover the others there then too? I guess the pipe down at the
Well, I think
bottom.
we've actually already talked about all three of these again, but for the 10th time, I'll talk about them again.
Go ahead.
Would the addition of another pipe and linking less in the water? Yes, but it was $2 to $5 million, which everyone agreed would never be spent. Currently, there are 3 inlets, not outlets on Brandywine
Why wouldn't
Court.
it be spent?
The suggestion, what?
Why wouldn't it at least be considered? Why does money?
Because of the
Was
cost.
it never spent
Well, I
$22 to $5 million?
understand that, but
Stated.
you have one pipe, that's it, and you continually add and add.
We don't add anything to it.
Well, all right, you have the storm sewers, additional ones were put at the end of Dolphin. That water flows naturally, I understand it splits. There's about 10 of them.
Dolphin,
At the
any
bottom,
inlets
you
on
know,
that Dolphin Avenue extension did not,
Don't
that's
go to
that,
Brandywine.
another drainage basin, that goes down by Coolidge Circle in the creek.
By Rabbit Hill.
Right.
Yeah, but I thought that came into the natural stream. My understanding from the infrastructure meeting is because the water flows naturally, depending on volume, depends whether it goes down Coolidge or it goes down Laurier.
No. What goes to Coolidge goes to Coolidge, what goes to your area goes to your area. They're totally separate drainage basins.
There's 3, what I'm saying is 3 basins in that area. The Logan Avenue detention basin is 1, the pipe in Brandywine is 2, and Coolidge Circle down by Sweets is 3. They're all in the same big picture, but they're in 3 individual drainage basins that don't really become one until it hits Cambridge Avenue.
So you're saying that the stream that runs with the Dolphin extension and Lincoln Avenue that comes through our highway is totally separate?
Yes.
All right.
They combine at Dr. Sweet's house. Okay, and there are currently storm outlets on Brandywine, I think you mean inlets or catch basins. The suggestion is to add 2 more to take surface flow off the street.
Is that going to complicate the problem, or would it be better to take the 3 existing ones here and put what you refer to as a Jim Bass super inlets?
The 6 one half dozen the other, I mean, it's conceptual report, it doesn't really matter. Stormwater flows by gravity downhill and it goes in an opening, it goes in the pipe. I mean, whether I make 3 openings bigger or add 2 new ones, it's usually cheaper to build a new inlet more effective than to try and modify an existing one.
All right, that's fine. I just thought if you had 3 inlets, you had an inlet that was more effective, that it might be people thought that it might be effective to take the 3 and put the super ones.
The super inlet only is effective when the grates are clogged by leaves.
All right.
So it's during that time of year is the purpose of the Jim, Bab, and Earl special inlet. It's when the grate's covered with leaves, the water still goes in the back, the curb face essentially. During your normal thing, when you have no leaves, it has the same capacity as a regular inlet.
So like a regular inlet.
It's belt and suspenders.
Gets, let's say, 2 gallons of water a minute.
2.4
These
cubic feet per second.
These super aren't like 4, they're basically the same. It's
Yes.
just that he's not
Yeah.
the leaves.
They all
They
get,
can just handle water with the 3 of them.
That's fine.
Okay,
Water flows naturally through our area as well as runoff from Spring Township. Was any consideration of limit flow for Spring Township or reroute? These are all natural stream cars, they can't be rerouted. We've said that ad nauseum, why we can't touch these streams. I know why you don't understand, but it's a federal law. We can't reroute a stream. We can't take water from this stream and put it over there as a matter of convenience.
People aren't asking to reroute the stream.
We're asking to reroute flow to the streams. Same thing. Can't take water from one watershed and put it in another one. When you have a delineated stream on a map, you are not to alter what goes to that delineated stream versus another delineated stream. Can't take it from A and send it to B. It's under the Clean Water Act.
Well, that's fine. People are aware of that, and that's why we start consulting as far as an education. Thank you.
okay, we got them all. Thank you.
So when we get the information on the pipe pricing and the FEMA stuff, then we'll issue the final draft to go through committee.
Gotcha.
With the executive summary and the priorities, all that'll be contained in that one document for further examination.
Fair enough. Okay. Anything else?
There's an item that didn't make the agenda that needs discussion, is the library.
Oh, yeah, you
I
want to
forget that.
Yeah, Tom will add some.
Well, Chris and Jim and myself, Jody met at the library last Thursday to discuss the roof situation over there. Jim has since been over and looked at some of the things, and I'll let him discuss that. But we have got to do something. Got water coming down the wall in one area, and we've got to do a repair and gutter up there. And Jim, why don't you talk about what you and Alan Pier?
I'm not gonna say I was on the roof because I wasn't, but I was on the ladder up at the roof line at a couple spots over there with Alan Pier, the local roofer. And from what I saw there, with the copper gutter flashing, different valley flashing, it is, to a layman, and I'm a layman roofer, it's totally obvious that it's shoddy work from RestoreCorps, who was the contractor who did the repair after the hailstorm. It's obvious. The snow guards, you can put your hand on one and just move it around. Some have already fallen off in less than a year or two, and I'm sure within a few more years they're all have fallen. So just that, what I saw there, I think, as opposed to trying to, let's fix this, let's fix this, let's fix that, I think it'd be prudent with Chris's input, we have to sue him for, it is poor workmanship, and it's so obvious, it is so obvious. I don't know if we'd ever win, or how difficult, or if it's cost effective.
Well, we need to get them to the table to talk to us. My recommendation was that we get a report that would be the basis of discussion at such a meeting. So I think unless we can put their nose in it, we're gonna have a hard time getting accountability from them as to the deficiencies that you're talking about. So,
Didn't somebody sign off on the work?
yeah, Colleen did.
Why did the board let her sign off on it?
Well, that's the problem. Therein lies the problem. Colleen is an excellent librarian, excellent educator. She's not a property management person. Somebody had some expertise, somebody like Greg Ciotto should have had some input into that, but didn't.
He wasn't on the
He
board.
wasn't on the board at the time. We didn't have, and nobody asked Jim to look at it, or anybody that we had that.
We actually wrote a report on the roof that was deficient.
Yeah, we have a report on it, and UPark did it. We've got one right here, the Cowders report.
it's an 11-point, document with, LTL Consultants did a 9-point report.
Does
So
that LTL, I have to ask Mike Cowder, is there a backup report, or is that it, just bullet points?
I'm sure there probably is. I think this is more of an executive summary, but I'm sure there is.
So maybe we already have this.
Okay. If we do have adequate documentation, and part of what I requested as a follow-up to our meeting was to review the file that the library has to see what documentation they have on hand. And then, after we evaluate what they have in their file, if we have sufficient documentation, then I think we need to demand that Restore Corps sit down and talk us.
In the meantime, that place is falling
In
apart.
the meantime, and I'm just getting this from our meeting, Mike Cowder has some concern, says we're not in imminent danger. Alan Peer said, with the issue that we looked at by the front door, that, for him to really investigate it and find what the issue is, could take a couple days. Chances are, he'll find things that he doesn't understand or that are really wrong. He'll have to keep moving it back on the roof to fix the problem. So his thought was just to, I don't want to mislead you, but to caulk it, basically, to stop the issue until we understand where we're going in the future. Because we're just going to keep throwing $5,000, $20,000, and never get anywhere because we're throwing darts at it. So he thinks he can slow it down to stop the issue with some really remedial, easy repairs for the time being until we know what we're doing. Because it's not.
What cost is that?
Well, he said he could do what we discussed. He said I could do it in a day.
Well, he can do, he gave Cowder a price of $8,000, an exploratory assessment of the ridge, eaves, rake, and gutter conditions up there to see where we're at. He also gave an estimate of $65,000 to repair the existing insulation, the ridges, the field slate, the eaves, the rakes, and the gutters. So, it's still spending a lot of money we shouldn't have to spend, but the bottom line is the water now is running inside. We have to move books off the shelves. So we just can't sit and do nothing. We can't dilly-dally with this, or we're gonna have more repairs to do.
I mean, when I was at the meeting, that was essentially what it came down to, but it seemed like maybe there's something we can do in the immediate, short term, just to make sure we don't have continued problems and then assess the situation, and that didn't seem to be like a huge expense.
I don't know if committee's amenable to get him up there and to see where we're at and at least get some of these things stopped so we don't get a lot of damage over the winter.
Well, he's already going to do that in that area. We're
Just in
committed
that.
to that.
But we've got open flashings up there too. And, open flashings, it's running down inside. And we've got this is snow and ice. Now we've got that starting. All right, so what do you need from us here for progress to fix it? Temporary he's gonna do, is that right? And we're-
Just in this one area by the front door is what we spoke about. But Tom is right, there's other areas that aren't right either. And maybe it's not showing itself now, but it's obvious that water isn't running down the slate into the gutter and down. There's obvious flaws.
If we're gonna stick with
It's
this.
easy to say, hey, have him fix it up a little bit here and there, but it's not that easy.
It's not that easy, no. It's a lot, it sounds a lot easier than what it is.
Well, what will get us through winter?
But we'll get through winter, the way it is, but it's a chronic issue. You may get a call during a heavy rainstorm from colleagues saying, oh my God, come over here, you know.
Maybe if we can get, I know we gotta get that corner fixed,
Yeah.
get that plugged up, because that's running down the inside wall.
That's the most immediate.
That's the most immediate concern, and if we check some of these other, where the flashing is not letting up against the, I'm not so much worried about the snow guards right now, because that's gonna involve taking off the slate. They have them screwed to the slate instead of to the deck.
There's just a couple of pictures to show you how any normal person can see, hey, that's not right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Why
That's
are we
what I'm
messing
saying.
around?
That's
$392,000 to rip it off and start over again.
That's where I'm hoping that,
I wouldn't do
it's
slate
so
again.
faulty that,
Yeah,
sooner.
it's, I don't think they even put a word shield in there. I don't think there's even a water shield underneath there.
You just don't know what the integrity of the deck is in that whole roof.
The deck, seems to be, the deck's pretty tough, it's pretty heavy stuff. It's plank, except in the new section, I think it's probably.
The other thing Alan was concerned about was when they're doing road runs of slate, I guess slates come with pre-drilled holes within them.
Yeah, they do.
But when they come to a valley or up at the top of the roof, there's like a double layer. And he has reason to believe that the slate underneath the top slate, that they didn't take the time to drill that one too and just nail through two slates, hence cracking the lower one, and it's gonna fall out at some point. He must have seen that at some point, and now it's in his head that this is a problem.
I think Paul's got a good idea, get rid of the slate, get asphalt shingles or metal or something that looks just the same, and you know what you get. Tom and I could put it on.
Right, good for 30 years.
I'm glad you're looking that way.
Would that be an option? Would people entertain a metal roof on there, or is that not historically correct?
Like a standing seam.
Yeah.
I thought it fell off. It's a big house, and they put it basically plastic, or it looks like shit, looks like slate,
Yeah.
and, they've been in the last 16 years.
If you go out to the spring house out by Roos Bridge, that roof you look at looks like the same stuff. It's plastic, but it looks like it's.
So 300 is for slate,
300 is for slate, that's the place for slate.
different day, different time.
To replace it with anything, it's probably $100,000.
Oh my God, yeah, just the square footage up there and the angles.
All right, so what do we need to do right now? Anything?
This committee doesn't need to do anything
All right.
right now. He's gonna take,
It'll be
Alan's gonna take
reserved
care of
for
that,
them.
no problem.
Reserved for the winter.
Are you gonna have him look in the flashings and see if we can get, something up there to at least keep the water out of the building until Chris can come up and look at this. Greg Ciotto is gonna give him all the stuff he has from the engineering studies. And when we were over there with the engineers originally, so he's gonna get all that information to Chris. Colleen is getting everything she has and give it to Chris, so he can go through it and see what we've got.
Counter didn't seem to think the roof needed to be replaced.
Yeah,
And in having conversations with Alan Peter, I got an entirely different story. But he said he would not guarantee anything unless he started all over again.
yeah, exactly.
He said he just can't do it.
I know. All right,
I just don't know, I'm just trying to feel, and I kind of probably know how Tom feels, he's probably in the know, but if a standing seam roof could go on there for $150,000, we'd be entertaining. But I know how you feel about the historicness of the building.
we
we all feel the same about that, except for the fact that the water running down the wall on the inside.
Really.
Yeah, and then, you know, the architectural shingles that they have today are a whole lot different than what, I mean, there's a whole lot of nice stuff out there in the market that's a whole lot less expensive. It's like, I get it, you know, and we're dealing with taxpayers' money, and I get that too, so, you know, but we do have to, you know, it's a valuable asset.
All right, keep it dry this winter.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And there's heating and HVAC issues.
Yeah, I know.
That's another story.
Okay. Anything else? On the agenda, Jim? Anything else? Meeting adjourned.
Is there any way we can say a few words? You didn't have any public comments, so I don't know at which point we can.
Well, I don't know, what's the,
It's very short. The reason we came is about the, is that okay?
I don't know,
Go ahead.
I'll take 2 minutes. Is about the, and we approached you before about this. It's about the intersection at Thrush and Cardinal Road.
didn't you already do this?
1 second.
Did it?
So there has been some recent developments. Mr. Fox at the bottom over there has installed a fence.
But we reviewed all this.
You may
Right.
finish?
I don't know.
I have not
think you're going
been-
over something we already did.
I have not spoken to you about, you don't even know what I want to say.
There's a new topic.
Yes, sir.
It brand new. It has nothing to do with what we already studied.
Okay.
Is that right?
So the problem, what we're
Is
trying
that
to
right?
say. Yes, sir.
Okay.
The study that was done at the center of the intersection that is on the plans. What happens, I'm an engineer, and that theoretical center of that is a very theoretical center. The practical issue on the ground is nobody goes around that center on the plans driving. So
Get the
what
argument.
happens is, yes, so we do have a line of sight issue, whether we,
We already reviewed that.
but we reviewed it from a different angle.
Oh,
Okay, so the issue is coming down from Cardinal.
well, you know what? I'll stop. I'm gonna let these people go, and if you wanna chat, you can sit up here and chat with me for a couple.
So, aren't
Okay.
we supposed, I understand, but public comments,
Stop.
don't we
Stop a
have?
minute. Stop a minute. You can chat with me a couple minutes after, let these people go. Meeting's adjourned. They don't need to hear all this.
So normally we don't have public comments in the infrastructure,
Well, I'll let you come up here, we'll chat, and let these guys go.
but the agenda didn't have it.
Well, I already adjourned, leave them. Go on up, I'll listen to what I have.
Adrian, if your concern is that the fence is in the clear sight triangle.
No, it's not about, you never let me finish. So it's not about the fence. I didn't even have the time to articulate what I want to say.
Come up here, I said,
Wide
I will.
perpetual easement.
No problem.
And this is 20.
Everybody gets to talk, we don't even get to talk.
you get to talk here.
Yes, sir, no, this is exactly what it is. Everybody has the right to
I'll
say,
listen to you. I didn't say I wouldn't
That's
listen.
your standard, no,
we're here to talk.
The section says 20.
Okay, so what should we look at? I can-
Everything's done up front.
Here, back in
Yeah.
I'll use
Wait.
this.
You two hang out together now?
No, we actually prepared something that we decided to do. In a very short time.
This is what we're looking at, this one here.
Yeah.
When did we?
And I'm assuming because they came in before these voters and they had to put this in.
Right.
We never yelled at each other.
Well,
So I'm hoping that this, whatever easement is here, is an easement so this guy can be on their property.
I don't like
the
it.
borough.
you don't have to like me.
Oh, no, I think this is his easement, to have his utilities.
I'm
through
not
this
mocking
line.
you anymore.
That's all I want to know. So when I go looking at this, I don't want to be exposed, oh, that's your easement, you gotta fix this.
This center of the intersection here, the drawing is really nice. The reality on the ground is that people coming from
Up and in, and this is his right to have it on this property.
That's what it is.
That property line. Goes all
This,
the way to the railroad.
so the
How
problem,
many accidents
okay,
have there been?
So,
hold on.
with pretty much certainty,
We
I don't have to worry
just
about
as,
it.
Not yours.
previously and other things we discussed, we don't wanna wait for the response. So, the thing
You have
is,
some sort of.
the new fence,
You have something.
and we have absolutely nothing against the man building it.
They had him
He's
out
right.
so structurally look at it.
But the reality is that he has changed the path and the line of sight. You could see before through the bushes, you could see.
He did it right up on.
And we're not here to create
Pretty
anything,
sure he
we're
did
just
something.
trying to make sense.
He may have just been like, I'm
So,
gonna know
the-
some photographs.
The issue is, you're coming down,
If you have any.
the stop sign is right here, nobody, so let's assume there's somebody who's coming down and has never been on Hardwick's. We know the,
I know, but what's the problem?
the problem is line of sight. So
And
as
how
you
many-
come
How many
down,
accidents have there been?
well, the fence has been built for months. Do we wanna wait? So there is, that's why we're coming.
To interject here, as I was saying, the owner that installed the fence had Stackhouse Fencing do a complete property line survey and identify the clear sight triangle on the survey plan that was submitted with the permit application. It is not in violation of the clear sight
We
triangle.
agree with that.
But it is with a different corner.
It's in a
That's it.
different
It's
corner.
a different corner.
The reality
Well,
But
is,
the ordinance is
as
written
you
black and white, it doesn't have, you can't change where those corners are.
There are
The
two,
ordinance
there are
specifically,
two corners.
the ordinance specifically defines where that's measured.
And I agree with
Can you
that.
please come
It's,
here to
it's,
go to
it's
the-
not, we're not arguing about the ordinance. We know that what he did is correct. That doesn't change the situation on the ground. So we're appealing to reason.
So what would you change?
What would I change? One second. Yes. So there are several ways to do this. We can either paint the center of and somehow, make people go around so that this is not a problem. He came with an idea with a mirror, those traffic mirrors. There are many ways that it can be done. Okay.
I actually
And-
agree.
It's okay.
Now you disagree.
Of course,
Okay.
I'm not speaking.
I get it, you too, I can't
So-
figure it too much.
And again, we're friends. We've never argued.
All right.
Okay. So the easiest thing that we're proposing is, it's the sycamore tree right here in the corner. If this would go, the situation would improve greatly. The problem with it, it's sick as heck. Look, this is the bark. You go there and the bark, you can take it like this with your finger. It has, he knows what the illness is, and he discussed it once.
Fungus, and it's
Yes.
eaten by insects because of the
It's
fungus.
better tree.
And it
This
is
is
close
how-
to the center of the tree.
What we're trying to say is, this tree, sooner rather than later, is gonna go. How about we just take it out, and we go from there, and we see how things improve. It's not a huge expense. Installing a mirror, doing the center of intersection, it could be more expense than anything else. We think that if we just cut the line, so
So
basically.
you're saying somebody can sneak up along here?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're coming here, this tree is huge.
No, I know.
You can't see, you're coming down here, it's a really
So
tiny
where are they
picture.
sneaking up from that you can hit them?
They just cut across and you don't see that they're in your way, in your lane, basically, because this is a very beautiful schematic here, but people,
Have you guys had to jam on the brakes there at all to avoid
Yeah.
this?
and we have teenagers, the thing is,
My daughter
if
just
people
getting
would go,
licensed.
if people would go around the center, it would be a different thing, but this is not happening. This is a weird intersection, I understand the ordinance, yeah, the ordinance is correct,
And
and
the
we're not
problem is
arguing.
here, I actually reported on September 13th. If you look here, it has to be with this triangular stuff. We went, I'm an engineer, he's an engineer, we went together. We put the corners here, and the other one is over there, you can see.
I have no idea.
And this is the whole thing, we put the corners, and you need to be able to see all of them. From number one, number three, from number three, number one, but you cannot, there is a fence and there is a tree. Fence is okay, I understand this guy put a fence, he's allowed to do it because the study was not for this corner, for another one. And another one is fine. But when he comes,
Good
he
luck
cannot
with that.
see until we up
It
and
took
it
me
is
about
in
3
front of him.
times till I finally.
My suggestion is slow down.
Yeah, but
Yeah, for
you
the
can
real
tell us
life.
that,
I
we
know,
know
I
that
know.
you need it.
There are several documents when Dr.
But I
Press.
want you to realize
First of all,
that
we need
it was a
to
pain in the ass.
stop
I'm
ahead sign
pre-approved.
if you cannot see the sign.
Because when I
of
moved back to,
75.
well, when I moved to Florida, I had to give up my
Second,
PA, and then when I moved back to
even-
Florida, I had to give up my Florida, and they act like you've never had a PA driver's license, even though I'm like, the number is.
Listen,
I
So,
read
we're just,
that.
we're just
If you
trying
put
to.
a mirror across the street,
60
you will be able to see us.
We're
I went
just,
on my lunch break, and that was the only time I had success.
we're really concerned about
But if you're not getting real
It's a
estate,
Fox, might have something
Right
right up.
here, you're going down.
See you later.
Into time,
You
there's
decide this, is that the petition?
Steve,
No, it's,
why
we're
did they
working,
work in
it's,
my
this was
office? I
done,
didn't until you
he decided not to.
I
present
actually
it
didn't
today.
want to present it.
So I
Maybe that's
decided
where
to
Bell's-
say a few words
What?
to approve your reasoning and see if we
Six
can.
Farm.
I think that
Tomorrow,
cutting
yeah.
that tree that is very sick.
I emailed the guy to Mr. Brandon Booth and to me. They kept.
It is a mora tree, it's a sycamore, it's a dog, yes. And like I said, go there,
Hey,
you can take the bar,
Yeah.
it's chewed up. So
kids get out of school.
why wait another 5 year?
Can I keep this?
Yes, it's not mine, he did.
I can email you, yes, I can email you the card.
I just came to. So that's all I'm saying, let's look
I'm
at.
gonna find out if it's a burr tree first.
Yes, it is. I requested the documents. I
Yeah,
requested documents.
we
this
have,
summer.
we have for sure.
It is,
Yeah, we have the
1115
list, the official list.
Thrush Road.
We have the official list of the trees and it is a bora tree, it's a sycamore.
What problem?
Those are sacred. Trees are sacred here.
I
You know,
understand
trees get better treatment.
than people. I know.
Yeah.
Good one.
In car accidents, I've seen them run and look at the tree first
Yeah,
before they
but
check.
seriously, honestly, it's, I
Absolutely.
know.
It's
So,
close to that.
the thing is, you look at it, you'll know that it will go. So why not just, you know, and we plant another one in some other place where it doesn't bother nobody. So, I think
Oh,
it
your
will
arms hang
improve,
off.
it will improve a lot. And it's not much to ask, really, they do it anyway, so.
I have your information and I'll read it.
Yeah.
How's that?
I will email you the copy, because the copy is a color.
Okay. That's
It's
fine.
much better.
I got it.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.